Okay, I don't know what is on that. I should never wear black because dog hair and just the general world sticks to you. I'm really sorry I haven't uploaded in a while. I think it's been like a few weeks, which I didn't plan, but we moved back to New York. So, yeah, we live in New York City, I guess, now. Until my name is on a lease, I will not be able to feel like I can say that I live in New York. So, we've been crazy apartment hunting. We really want something that we put an application in for, but it's strangely taking a long time to hear back. And with the pace of this city, I feel like maybe it's not a good sign, but anyway, I don't know. So, in short, we have just been making the transition here, and I just haven't really had a moment or like felt like sitting down to film. I didn't want August to escape me before I share my July reading with you because I read 8 books, which was a lot for me. And some of them were amazing. So I didn't want them to go without a little spotlight. Let's just start from the beginning of July. The first one, I must have cheated because last wrap up in June, I included this book, but it says I finished it on the 1st of July, so I guess I cheated in the last video. It's Practice by Rosalind Brown, so I won't talk about it because I already did in the last video. Enjoyed it. The next book that I read was If Only by Vigdis Hjorth. This is 400 pages, which I'm just seeing now, which is one of the bigger books that I've read in a long time. That is quite a large book for me. If you know me and you watch this channel, you'll know that a short book is my favorite thing in the world. A good short book. But I love Vigdis Hjorth. She's a Norwegian author. This is actually one of her older novels, but it's only recently been translated to English. So for English readers, it's new. And it's a very messy book about a woman who falls in a deep, longing, feverish passion for an older man, and it kind of spans a 10-year period of this like affair, and the dissolution of her marriage, and this really like fucked up relationship with this man that she can't seem to get out of her, and it really is giving Annie Ernaux Simple Passion, and like, yeah, can passion be mistaken for love, and how does that manifest in one's life over a period of time? So that's what this book is. I spoke about this as well in another video. It's very repetitive, and so encyclical and frustrating, but I was still very gripped by it, and I feel like even though it's long, if you can read it kind of in more of like in a rapid pace, it would be better. I love Hjorth's writing. I don't know if I could stand this kind of cyclical, frustrating narrative like through many people's writing, and through hers, I still really enjoyed it. So, yeah. I always will recommend a Hjorth. I have a lot more of her work to get through that I haven't. So I enjoyed this. Very, very messy. I did a little poetry collection by Louise Gluck. This is Vita Nova. Vita Nova!
Vita Nova.
Vita Nova! So translates to new life in Italian. It's about springtime. So spring poems. But actually deals quite a lot with grief and death. So where there is death, there is rebirth, and there is new life. I enjoy Louise Gluck's poetry. This is the second collection I've read of hers. I read a bit of these poems on my Substack. So that was kind of fun to do like a little reading, and I want to do that more. Last night I was like kind of reading to myself a little bit out loud, and was sort of like, maybe I would love to be an audiobook narrator. I wonder how one gets into that. Um, but actually, I have a friend who does it, so I should actually ask her. But yeah, I enjoyed this collection of spring poetry. With every collection, like some I really enjoyed and some less. Then I read Summer Water by Sarah Moss. I have none of these books with me physically, I'm sorry. I loved her other book that I read called The Fell. And Summer Water is one that I've had for a while and really wanted to get to. It takes place in a Scottish like holiday resort next to a huge lake, and it's following all the different families and couples and people that are staying in this summer holiday resort. And of course, it's summer in Scotland, so it's torrential downpour. And her work is just so atmospheric, and I loved the way that each chapter like passed from character to character, and like it kind of has that sort of necklace of events. Like you get the perspective of a woman running, taking a run in the morning, and then next you see the next character you read is like the person inside the window seeing the woman that's running across the street. So like it kind of just, they all get interconnected like that. It's very captivating. It's building like such a tension to like the end, and also deals a lot with like xenophobia in the UK, and like the way that families in this Scottish resort like look at immigrants that are also staying there, and so there's like that tension between those elements and those identities, and it's like really building this tension. And in the end, I felt like it kind of let me down a little bit. Like, yeah, it kind of didn't explode in the way that I wanted it to, but I still really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate Sarah Moss's writing for her atmosphere and her, yeah, like environment building. Like you really feel like you're there. You smell the rain. You feel like she does tension really well. And it's, yeah, 200 pages basically. So like also a really good short one. Next, I read August 9th Fog by Catherine Scanlon. Catherine Scanlon's novel Kick the Latch is like one of my favorite tiny little books that I tell a lot of people about as often as I can. I really love that book, but we won't talk about that book now. So I want to read everything that Catherine Scanlon has written. And this is a short, tiny little experimental book that is in the vein of what Catherine Scanlon does so well, which is like novels and pieces that are built out of like real life interactions with people, or in this case, she found a diary of an older woman, I think like in an estate sale or something. And through reading this woman's journal, she was so touched and moved by like the inner life of this, ordinary woman, and wanted to turn it into a book. And Kick the Latch was a book that was created based on interviews with a horse trainer, a real horse trainer. So like this kind of fictionalized portrait of real people. This one I liked the concept of, but it didn't really move me. Like there is something touching about reading fragments of, an elderly woman's recollections of life and daily things and relationships with people, and especially losing people as you get older in life, and living becomes fragile. So that is beautiful, and the concept is beautiful, but I didn't think that it really, it didn't do so much for me as I wanted it to. And then we got to A Flat Place by Noreen Masood. This is a memoir. There is a longer title, if I'm not mistaken. Moving Through Empty Landscapes, Naming Complex Trauma. This was the book that we read for Katie James's book club, and I am so happy that Katie suggested this book because I enjoyed it so much. Noreen Masood, she's speaking about complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD. I also spoke about this in my last vlog when I had a little bit of an emotional moment on the internet, and I think that it was partially triggered by this book, and I just thought that it was such an interesting memoir, so evocative. Noreen talks about her fascination for flat places and flat places in relation to her own CPTSD and looking for spaces where there is nothingness, where there is nothing to see, where there is nothing to look at, where there is no life almost, and also like the flat places that she goes in her brain and that she goes in her mind and her experience moving through life. She's of British Pakistani heritage, so she speaks a lot about her very intense, very, what's the word, constricting and suffocating childhood in Pakistan, where her father was isolated them. They would go like weeks without leaving the house, and kind of just like looking through the window, and this being like a huge center of trauma for her, although she can't really find, there isn't like one event that like she can kind of process and deal with, and that's the complexity of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and this feeling that she gets, or this phenomenon of derealization, where like the world, everything starts to feel not real to you, like you have no way of knowing what's real, and so all of these things, and then being exploring all of that and her own history through like researching flat landscapes in Britain, and also talking about like colonialism and how those beautiful flat places that she loves like come to being, and what they hold in them, and what kind of fraught history they hold in them as well. And I just thought it was so good. Like the writing was beautiful. I was fully immersed in it. There was like not a moment where it felt like psychological and brainy. It was very in my body as I was reading it. So I really, I just really loved this book, and really appreciate Noreen Masood. Then I read I Am the Brother of XX, stories by Fleur Yegi. This was a weird one for me. I also vlogged about this book, so I won't talk too much about it. Both A Flat Place and the Fleur Yegi I speak about in my most recent vlog that I can link downstairs. It was very uneven for me. Like there were a few short stories that I thought were great and super interesting. There's something very unnerving, unsettling, bizarre, icky kind of feeling about this, the way she writes. She's a Swedish author, and I normally really love, like those are all descriptives that I enjoy, especially in books. And so in really specific stories, like that really worked for me. And in others, not so much. I was left just really confused. Don't really remember very much about it. I do remember being kind of skipping stories, leaving them in the middle because I really didn't understand what was going on. So I couldn't really get into this one. So I don't know if I'll read more Fleur Yegi, because if her work is kind of in that vein. I'm not sure like I flow with it so much. Last one, I managed to do this pretty quickly, was State of Paradise by Laura Vandenberg. This is her newest novel. I had so much fun with this book. I really enjoyed this book. Um, I loved Laura Vandenberg's short stories, I Hold a Wolf by the Ears, a few years ago on Jalen's recommendation from Bar in the Bookcase. And CJ Reads, I think they were like both really fans of that collection a few years ago. I really loved it. I loved the kind of haunting, surreal, dark nature to her stories, and like psychological elements to it and the tension that she uses. So I was very interested in reading this novel. So Rebecca Eats Books lent it to me, and I read it like in 2 days and gave it back to her. This follows a couple who, well, one woman, but her and her husband moved back to her hometown into her mother's house in Florida. I think they were living in New York at the time, and then there's the pandemic, and then they moved back to Florida. And her sister lives next door. This is like more science fiction-y than I was expecting, because there's an AI virtual reality headset device called Mind's Eye. And it's by a tech company called Electra that's out of South Florida. And the government or someone is dropping off these meditation devices. So it's like a virtual reality meditation device, and they were dropped off at people's homes during said pandemic. And this Mind's Eye device kind of reads your mind and kind of listens to what you would consider to be like a place you really want to go, a place that you need to be in your mind in order to reach like a meditative state. And then that device puts you in whatever that place is. So there is this kind of like looming strange device, and then a bunch of people are going missing, just like person after person is found missing, and there is some relation to the device. And our main character, she's also grappling with like the strangeness and the science fictionness that is Florida as a place. So I really enjoyed that. Like the weather, and the heat, and like lizards, and it's just very, yeah, like I really liked the way she puts you in Florida, and like the way that she kind of like really goes into that. And I won't tell you too much about the story, because there is a narrative, so I don't want to spoil it for you. But her sister is obsessed with the Mind's Eye device, and things go kind of wacky from there. I really enjoyed this. It was really fun. I just like, that was exactly what I needed, was just a contemporary novel to just take me out of moving stress and whatever I was going through, and like just read a great novel that transports you somewhere else. And I really love Laura Vandenberg's writing. I know she has another novel called The Third Hotel or something, that I really want to read as well. And also deals with grief, this book, because they've lost their father, and he is actually like popping up inside the Mind's Eye device that her sister is using. Like her sister is like talking to their father through this device. And so it's also dealing with grief and like void, like what are the voids, and like sinkholes in Florida, and what are like sinkholes in our lives, in our minds. Yeah, really creative, really fun. I really enjoyed it. that's it. So yeah, pretty good reading month for me. It's mid August, and I've read only 2 books, so I don't know if it'll be as good of a month quantity wise of reading. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm reading it all. Let me know what you read in July. Weather in New York has been like half we're back in winter. Like it's been raining, 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 which is probably in relation to Storm Debbie that's surging through the US. And yeah, we've just had very strange weather here. Like, have been putting on a hoodie, and then it's August. Um, but today was quite sunny, but still like not too hot, pleasant this morning. I'll see you in the next one, and let me know maybe like what you read in July, and also what your favorite book that you read in July was. And if any of these books you've read, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. And if any of these books pique your memory of like books like them, I would also love to hear those recommendations as well. So, okay, that's it. Bye.